It's time to talk IndyCar on Prime Sports Network. That means Eric Smith from RaceReviewOnline.net is going to join me to preview the race coming up in Alabama. And that's going to be, depending on when you're looking at this video, you could be looking at this video following the press conference on Sunday's race at Long Beach, or you could be looking at this video just a few days before the race. Either way, it works. And that's because we have a lot to talk about in a short period of time regarding this race, the Grand Prix of Alabama, which is actually the Honda Indy Grand Prix of Alabama. And Eric, what do we know about this race, and what's the significance of it?
Well, it's honestly of big significance, as this is the last year of the contract for it. I think it'll come back. It's a track drivers love.
Oh, really? This is it?
Yep. This is it for the contract. It was supposed to be a couple years ago. COVID shifted. Well, they didn't go in 2020, naturally. Came back in 2021. So that 2020 year was shifted to 21. 21 shifted to 22, and this is the last year. So I think it'd be back. Drivers love it. Fans love it. It's a good scenic road course.
And why don't they? Why is the contract run out?
I think it's just negotiating.
Oh, okay.
They haven't.
Is it a good race?
And yeah, it's a strategy race. This is a race. It was initially made as a motorcycle track. So as you can tell, it's narrow. You could pass. You just can't pass a lot. There's certain braking zones and passing markers, but it's more of a strategy type race. Last year, it was really a 2-stop or a 3-stop strategy. And what I mean by that is you can stop twice. Your tires will last a little bit longer, which means you probably want to go on a harder compound, slower burst of speed, or you go on the reds. You could get a quicker burst of speed, but they fall off, but you're going to pit it more times. So
that's similar to the NASCAR race at Richmond.
Exactly.
Okay.
It is exactly what it is. So last year, Pelot was on a 2-stop strategy. The thing was, to rewind to last year, Pato O'Ward and Alexander Rossi are on the front row. O'Ward took off, was leading the race. He pit on, I think it was like lap 19, or 17. The thing was he pit, which would most people thought, oh, he's doing a 3-stop strategy. Rossi followed him in pit road. He didn't pit because he was on a 3-stop strategy. He pit because he had a cut tire and he was losing lap time and losing air. And they thought, well, we might as well switch and do a 3-stop strategy because I don't think we're going to make it all the way to the end of this stint with this tire. Rossi followed him down pit road, handed the lead to Pelot. Pelot goes on a 2-stop strategy and wins the race. So it just depends on cautions. And with this being, there's not a lot of area to hit a wall. There's a lot of runoff area. Yes, you could slide through and hit a wall and bring out a caution, but it's big enough to you don't get a lot of cautions. So pit strategy, overcut, undercut, 2-stop, 3-stop, you got all that jazz. So it's definitely a strategy race rather than one where you're probably going to see a lot of passing.
So out of the 11 races, the one constant trend, and for an IndyCar racetrack, the trends are kind of average. I mean, it's not like you have. I know when we did the race, the show for Long Beach, I think Colton Herta kind of broke the trend by starting 14th and winning. But here, the trends are again, considering it's IndyCar, it's not that bad. Except it's not that perfect, I should say, except for. If you are going to race here, you better start in the top 10. So all 11, 100% trend, all 11 race winners started in the top 10. And the last 4, actually, if you take a look at it, with the exception of 2 drivers, 9 of them started in the top 5. So that just is normal IndyCar racing, though. But again, you start outside the top 10, and chances are you're not going to win this race.
Yeah, that's where the strategy comes to play. Is you have to, is because, like I said, there's not a lot of passing space. And if you go on natural road courses, so a track like this, the Indy road course, Road America, Mid Ohio, Portland, Laguna Seca, those type of tracks, not street courses, but not ovals. They're called natural road courses. They're all tough to pass on. Well, if you go back to 2016, the last 39 races on these, 37 of them have been won from a top 10 starting spot. So it's not just Barber. It's natural road courses in general. Okay. And in fact, 21 of those came from the pole. 30 of the 39 are from the Fast Six. So really, to say this race is going to be won in qualifying on Saturday of that race weekend. So if you don't make it out of the first round, which would be the top 12, you probably got no shot of winning. You're kind of fighting for just getting in the top 5 at that point. If you get in the top 12, you want to start in the top 10, naturally, as we said. But to further your odds, you really want to make it to the Fast Six, get to the final round, and really open your shot of a race victory. So that's why I say a lot of these natural road courses, the races are won in qualifying on Saturday, because that can make or break your race winning chances, which I know this isn't a handicapping show, but that's why in IndyCar races, you really want to pay attention to the odds and really want to jump on the long shots early in the week.
Yes.
Because if they qualify well, they're really going to drop odds. The guys up front are probably going to qualify well in general. Their odds aren't going to change much.
Yeah.
So jump in on the longer shots early, and then you can always bet the favorites during the race weekend. But qualifying is key in IndyCar, and those stats prove that you've got to have a good qualifying. But that makes practice important because there's only a couple of them. So you got to land it right. You don't have a lot of time to mess around.
Okay, now let's go over the favorites. Your top contenders, Alex Palou, obviously. Not
Sure.
only did he win the race last season, but he had 3 wins in his championship season last year that came on these types of natural road courses.
Yeah, he'd be the top guy. And this is also insane at the first natural road course race of the 2022 season, too. So we haven't run on one yet this year. We've had 2 street courses and an oval. So, but this is kind of where NASCAR's mile and a halfs were their bread and butter. This is kind of IndyCar's bread and butter right now. We've got a lot of natural road courses on the schedule, and you can take a lot over from one to the other. We actually talked to Alexander Rossi in the test in Indianapolis. They didn't actually get to do because it was too cold. But he mentioned that you can test. Why test at Indy when there's 2 races there? Why would you come back? Because he said they're going to come back in June and test. Why would you come back in June when you already raced there in May and only have 1 race left? And he said you can use the data from Indy and apply it to other natural road courses, and it's in their backyard. So why not? So that's what he said. Your road course package is kind of your road course package. So you could probably see a lot that's going to happen in Barber, and then the next race after Barber is on the Indy road course. So we've got 2 in a row. So a lot of the drivers chose to test at Barber earlier this week on Monday before they head to Long Beach to get some extra data for this race. So I feel like right now, without knowing a lot of the data, because you haven't raced there yet, you got to start with Alex Palou. Okay. He's got to be your favorite.
And he's 1 for 1 at this track.
1 for 1. Yeah.
He's perfect. Okay. Joseph Newgarden, he has 3 wins in his career at this track.
Yeah, he's won 2 of the last 4 years. He's had a top 4 in 5 of his last 6. He's had a good start to the season. He won Texas. So Penske leading into Long Beach was 2 for 2. So I like Newgarden. He won Mid-Ohio last year. He looks good on natural road courses in general as well. So depending on what number you're going to get for those guys going into the race week, I would say right now those are your top 2 guys to watch.
All right. Now, Scott Dixon, no wins, 9 top 5s in 11 races, top 10 all 11, and 6 runner-ups. I mean, is this guy overdue?
He's definitely overdue. He's like that guy who was it in that? Kyle Busch. We were talking about him a couple of years ago. He's won on almost every track that they've ran on. I think it was Kyle Busch.
Oh, at Kansas?
Dixon's kind of that guy. Yeah, when he won at Kansas last year, he's like, oh, now he's won everywhere. Yeah. Dixon's close. He's got Iowa, St. Pete, and Barber is one that he just hasn't won out. I mean, you got to think, like you said, out of 11 races, he's finished in the top 3 in 9 of them. 6 of them were runner-ups. He's just never won. His teammate obviously won here last year. So can Dixon finally get over the hump and get a Barber win? For his stats, I feel like you got to take him just because he's always in the top 5. Why not get that one extra step? So I feel like you're going to get a good number on him. He hasn't been Scott Dixon-like lately, so he's worth the risk.
Yeah, I don't want him as the favorite, though.
No, you want him probably as the 3rd or 4th guy. If you could get him at plus 800, plus 900, somewhere like that, jump all over it. If he's plus 400 or 500, I'd wait. I'd wait through the weekend because if he doesn't qualify well, he's probably not going to win anyways.
Okay, Award. And he's only raced here twice, but he does have a pole and a race that, again, he should have won.
Yeah. if not for the puncture, early race tire puncture, who knows what he could have done? He was holding off Palou for the early portion. So the only thing with Pato, is we're gonna want to see what the number is on Friday when it was released. Pato's always told me natural road courses are their worst tracks. This is the one that had the most work to do. They feel like they're lacking in pace. However, he was on a pole last year there, so I don't want to discount him too much. They just have that cloud hanging over him of his future, which we talked about this on the last show. Until you get the future squared away, you're always going to have that cloud hanging over you. And he hasn't had a great start to the season leading into Long Beach. So can they turn it around? Now, if you could get him like a Scott Dixon 800, 900 plus number, yeah. If he's listed as one of the favorites, I'd punt on him until you see what he can do on the weekend.
Okay, now Will Power. You take a look at his stats and you go 8 top fives, 2 wins, and 11 races. So very good. But most of his really good finishes came early on. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, he was runner up last year, and he's also got 7 top fives in his last 8. So he's a great fantasy play for a top 5 driver. However, his last year's second place finish was his first podium since 2013 there. So it's like he's always finishing 4th or 5th, but he's not getting 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. Now, this year, he looks improved again. He's off to a good start to the year. So he's one you might get for a good number. He always qualifies good. Will Power is the pole master. He's got 64 of them. So he's 4 shy of Mario Andretti for most all time at the time of taping this. Things could change, obviously.
Sure.
So he'd be one that you probably know is going to qualify up front, and if strategy goes his way, I wouldn't count him out.
Okay, let's take a look at some potential sleepers, starting with Alexander Rossi. He's raced here 5 times. He does have a couple of top 5s.
Yep, and he qualified on the front row last year. Like I said, he had a good car. He just followed Pato down pit road thinking, hey, you know what? We're going to try to cover the leader. If he's going to go on a 3-stop, we're going to go on a 3-stop, and I heard him. So this year, I feel like Rossi's always has good cars. He just has bad luck. That's why you're probably, especially for him, after the first 2 races of the season, sitting 27th in points, you're going to get a good number for him for Barber. So definitely a sleeper to watch for. And he's one I would take earlier in the week.
Okay, the other sleepers, you got Grosjean, VK, and Rahal. So out of those other sleepers, and including Rossi, who would you lean towards?
Probably Grosjean in the sense, weird saying that with Andretti's bad luck, but these are the tracks that he grew up racing. Barber's like a European track. That's what they always say. That's why some of these guys that come over from F1 do good there. Well, he was 10th last year, and he's never seen the track before. Now he's in an Andretti car. He was driving the same car last year that Palou drove the year before, but Palou, they didn't race at this track. Well, Palou jumps in a Ganassi car and wins. So does Grosjean go from that car to an Andretti car and maybe have a similar fate? So mix all that together, I feel like you're going to get a good number for him too. I'd say he's my top sleeper for this race.
Okay,
right
and
now.
That's also because and those are the drivers, by the way, that you definitely want to look at taking prior to
correct
qualifying.
Prior to the qualifying. Rahal too, because Rahal 4 top 7s his last 6. He's good at Barber. He's good at the Indy road course. He's good on these tracks. The thing is, they just don't qualify well. They struggle in qualifying. So I would grab him a little early. In a sense, if you notice qualifying, it could work against it. You might get a longer number, but he's probably not going to win if he's starting 14th. Rahal's got to start towards the front. So I'd grab him early because in saying that too, if he qualifies up front, those odds are going to drop. So he's one I grab early. VK, he won at the Indy road course last year, 6th in this race last year too. Off to a good start of the season. He qualifies well. He's a guy that will probably open up plus 1,500, plus 1,800 range, maybe even longer. But he might, if he makes the Fast 6, that's going to drop to like a plus 1,000, plus 900. So I'd grab him early as well.
Okay, now again, we're recording this on just a couple of days before the Long Beach race, so we could have this available right after the press conference, the winning press conference on Sunday. So we've got a few weeks before the race.
Yes.
So when will you start covering this race at racereviewonline.net?
It'd be the week of. because what happens is we got Long Beach this weekend. Granted, if you're watching this, is probably race just happened.
Yeah.
Or the race that happened a couple weeks ago, depending on when you
Yeah.
watch this. But between, we got Easter. IndyCar never likes to race on Easter. I'm not sure why NASCAR came out of their pause and was going to race on Easter, but they're punting on that, as they should. The week after that, IndyCar's got an open test out at the Speedway for 500 testing, with all the cars will be there. So we'll be talking more geared towards the Indy 500 after Long Beach, and then after that week. So this Barber stuff will really kick off the week of Barber, because you got Indy before that.
And then once we
there's
get
still a lot of stories.
And then once we get into May, we don't have any of these long layoffs anymore. It's basically at least
No.
every 2 weeks.
Yeah, we had to get through this stretch, and I get why NBC has, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to say this wrong, I think it's 13 or 14 races on Network NBC. So they moved St. Pete up because they wanted to start earlier and wanted to go after the Daytona 500. The problem is when you move something, Long Beach is traditionally always this weekend. Moved around because of COVID, but now that seems to be over, it's back in its rightful spot. Barber, they had to move because here's what's odd is Talladega which is just right down the road from Barber. The Cup race is a week before Barber. So it used to be Barber was in that weekend. Well, NASCAR shuffled their schedule around, and now Talladega is the last weekend of April, and Barber is the first weekend of May. So you kind of had that little bit of a gap. So IndyCar's had a gap, but now it really kicks into gear once you get into Barber. You got the Indy Road Course, Indy Qualifying, Indy 500, Detroit, Road America. I mean, it just really starts kicking into gear. You just had to get to this stretch, so they're pretty much there. That's just there. It's just weird. The TV scheduling is the first race is your week after Daytona 500. The second race, you're going against the opening weekend of the NCAA tournament. Your third race, you're going against the Masters, and then you got to go your fourth race, which is a week after Talladega, which is about 20 minutes apart. So scheduling wasn't ideal, but
it'll get better.
In the gear now. It will.
All right, sounds good. So we will do these a lot more often when there are a lot more races to cover, obviously. And by the way, at some point, we're also going to sprinkle in some F1 news. We're so busy with NASCAR and IndyCar and getting this off the ground. But because what I want to do with F1 is my one of my best friends is a big F1 fan, and he's trying to get me to watch F1. And I've been telling him for the last few years, I don't like any sport where there's no parity. So I can't get into F1 when there's only 2 drivers that basically can win every week. I can't do it. So he's trying to convince me that there's going to be parity this year. Now, maybe it looks like that the first race or two. I guess they've already had a race or two. But I need to see more, just like we said in NASCAR. I need to see more evidence. And once we get to the 5th or 6th race, if I see parity in F1, then we'll start maybe diving into it. But if all of a sudden within the first 4 or 5 races, it looks like the top guys are getting right back into it, and it's going to be, a no parity zone once again, then I just have no interest.
Yeah, I honestly, as weird as it sounds, I fell for that Drive to Survive trap with F1, that it's boosted my interest because and weird as it sounds too, they're later start times overseas, but are more favorable morning times for us. I kind of got into it the last couple of years of watching it because I was the same. I'm like, this is boring. It's either going to be a Mercedes, Ferrari, or Red Bull that's going to win, and it's still kind of that way in a sense. But the parity it's not as it's just going to be Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton.
Okay.
It's just going to be Sebastian. But there is a little more parity. There is more passing. They actually are passing. It used to be the Formula One races. Once the lights go out, the first lap's exciting, and then race is over. You can turn it off and come back an hour later, and it's going to be the exact same order. There was no passing. Now it's gotten better. The Drive to Survive series on Netflix has been incredible. Watched that religiously. Caught up with all the seasons, all the episodes. This latest one, I've got 1 episode left at the time taping this, which probably by the time the race is going, I've already watched it. But it's phenomenal. My kids are into it. It's really gaining a lot of headway. Their thing, which for a good video, we do talk about it, is they've got 3 races next year here in America, which that's a first. One of the things, are you oversaturating a market? Because they're rising big. and I wrote about this a couple weeks ago, is the prime viewership that ratings that you want to get are the 18 to 49-year-old age group. Formula One is honestly kicking IndyCar and NASCAR's ass in that category. It's not even close, and that's probably driven by this Drive to Survive. It's gotten people interested. People are talking. Now they've got another race, but we saw NASCAR do this in the 90s. They had all this rise, and they added too much, and they went away from their roots. Is Formula One kind of doing that by having 3? If you have 1 in each country each year, you leave you wanting more, because if you don't go to it, they're not coming back for a whole nother year. Now we've got 3.
Are they going to be at different parts of the country?
Miami, street race. That's this year in May. COTA has always been there. That'll be in October. And then at the end of November next year is a street race in Vegas under the lights on the Strip, which would look phenomenal. I mean, it's going to be awesome. But, and I get people saying, well, if you go to Europe and you look at their map and all their races, they're actually closer together than if you actually take Miami to Vegas and have COTA in between. They're farther apart than some of the races in Europe, which I get. But the thing is, this is one country. Yeah. You're racing 3 times in one country. Sure. Are people going to pick and choose? Well, maybe I'll go to Miami. Oh, maybe I'll go to Vegas instead of if you had one.
I guess it depends on the popularity of it. So
yeah, you just eventually all things start coming down. You just don't want to oversaturate it while you're high. You don't want to speed that process up. So right now they're on a high, and it's good. It's I like having before we go to church on Sundays and having the F1 race start at 9 a.m. and there it is, and it's rising. I will say I agree with your buddy. He's right. It is rising. We'll see. They have Australia the same weekend as Long Beach this week, so we'll see what that race holds.
They're coming. So what they have one race in the States every year?
2, right? They used to have 1. Now it's 2 because it's Miami's inaugural event this year. And then COTA November.
Okay.
Next year, now they're going to 3.
So Miami is when?
Early May. The second weekend of May.
Oh, so it's in a few weeks. So next month.
Yeah. So it'll be the week after Barber.
Okay.
It would be Miami.
Well, then we'll definitely have to talk about it when it comes to Miami. We'll maybe do like a special show because it's a good idea to get me involved at this time because I don't know anything about it. So, like for instance, I was watching the race last week on replay, or at least I was trying to watch like the last 5 or 6 laps just to see what I was watching, and it's obviously different, and it's being at night is cool, no question about it. They have like this video game board scoreboard that is a little confusing to me, but and there were the two drivers that were out front, and I was like, where's everybody else? I mean, what if it was only one driver out of these 2? This would be a boring race. Where is everybody?
And you still get that off the start. It's probably just those 2. Where at least IndyCar, you've got strategy in play. You've got you could always pit early. The 2 stop, 3 stop. Formula One really doesn't have that. You just don't see that. It's kind of the same guy. It's like IndyCar in a sense. You qualify up front, you got a shot to win. But it's really not. You don't see a lot of parity once the race gets going. Once it's going, still it opens up. Probably if the front row takes off, it's probably all you're going to see all day. But I feel like the broadcast has done a good job of being energetic into it. The graphics are pretty cool, so they're rising. It's a different form.
Oh, by the way, I noticed the caution that they had.
Yeah,
remember we talked about. I didn't understand that. What was it called?
Virtual safety.
Okay,
caution.
Yeah, because they had a caution, and I'm going, oh, this is. See, I wouldn't have gotten that, but we just talked about it last week.
See how they don't have necessarily the pace car come out? You just slow down.
I was like, this is cool. Okay.
Yeah. So you could actually, and that's what IndyCar's talked about wanting to do too, where you could pit during it. You could pull down and pit, but you don't lose your ground because you're pitting during an essential caution. But if you're 7 seconds clear of the car behind you, you stay 7 seconds clear. Now, granted, you're going to lose ground by pitting, but you don't fall way behind. Yeah. So that's what IndyCar has kind of asked for. Like, well, can we get one of those? Because it doesn't flip the field. You don't, because a lot of times if some guys have pit before the caution and the caution comes out, you bunch up, well, it flips the field. Well, if you have a virtual safety car, these guys can pit and retain their spot almost, and that's exactly
more fair.
what you saw.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even though I think the one guy was saying he was he thought the other driver like started too soon. Is that what happens?
Yeah, you could get into I jumped off the button and then started taking off, and but they've got all the monitors.
They can find
see
out
when somebody jumps off. They'll find out. But yeah, no, I thought it's an interesting angle. It does take the element of the suspense out that he could flip the field. I kind of like the idea of you can short pit. It opens the windows up. I can short pit, maybe get a caution to flip the field. It takes that out. There is none of that.
Yeah,
so
it's interesting.
I see the other side too. That I kind of like the opportunity where somebody could go off strategy, because you take strategy out of the game when you do that. There is no strategy.
True.
So I get it. Either side.
All right. So again, we'll talk some F1 next month before the race in Miami, and we will be back again as far as after Alabama. Next up is going to be Indianapolis, and that's going to be awesome for
right in my backyard.
Yeah, it's like the month of. It's like for about 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to be in Indianapolis where you live anyway. So
exactly,
you're going to be at the track.
You're going to see the pagoda and the trees. Like, oh, you're back again.
Yes.
I got to spend more time there than my house. So, yep. We'll see all that again.
Looking forward to it. All right, sounds good. Thanks, Eric. Again, racereviewonline.net. We'll talk to you again next time.
Yep, and then should mention now too, while we have it, is any requests for the month of May, any sites, any tours, drop us a note.
Yes,
now. Just give us some time to plan.
Because of Indianapolis, correct?
Yep.
Yes, because you're going to be there at the track for a few weeks. So if anybody wants Eric to go somewhere specifically at the track because you want to check it out, you want to see what it looks like, we've got the comment section, obviously, for every show. So just go ahead and throw your comments and questions and requests in there. So.
Yeah, we were getting some last year, and people they didn't realize how big the place is, and I only had like one day. I think it was towards the end, close to the race, and it's like I don't think I can make it all the way to the museum.
The sooner you can make the request, the better.
So no, I could plan the month out. So yeah, in request, there is no wrong request. Just let us know.
All right, Eric, we'll talk to you next time.
All right, thank you.